Hi, I'm Sophie Costin. I'm Director of Learning at MakeReal.
My background's very much in digital learning design, training around soft skills. MakeReal is an immersive learning company. We're kind of more than that. We have this whole game live experience wing.
We've been looking at emotional recognition AI, giving people feedback on how they might be coming across to another person.
Feedback to be effective, sometimes it has to make us feel uncomfortable. The work we do in learning is about changing behaviour.
Build technology to recognise how someone's emoting.
Resting face is a scientifically proven thing.
Yeah. Welcome back to Generating, an AI podcast in partnership with the LPI. We're here at Learning Live, AI Edition, and I'm here with Colin and Sophie from MakeReal. And this is going to be so fascinating because I definitely want to learn more about measuring value especially in learning with AI solutions. I think it's such a great topic because we are all about measurement and learning, but sometimes it's just really difficult to get the right data.
Yeah, I think it's something we talk about a lot. There's good intention, but there's probably not that much following through it. I think there's a really good logistical reasons for that. And hopefully AI will actually make it easier to measure as well. I think it's all about data sets.
Yeah.
So of course, we see the data sets to train it. So can we analyze those data sets to see what it's moving? But I was talking to someone in the networking break about a lot of this technology is nascent as well, like actually trying to understand long-term behavior changes. When everything's moving so quickly and we need to make choices now, it's really hard.
Definitely. Colin, what are you thinking?
Yeah, and I think with measurement, there's obviously thinking about what you're looking to measure. So there's measurement of what's happening within learning experiences. So our work is all about creating immersive learning experiences. And so we're able to measure things like people's emotional state as well as what they're saying and provide a huge amount of feedback and data. But then ultimately we want to be measuring the impact of the learning on real world outcomes as well. And those are the data sets typically in L&D that either people struggle to get access to or it's just kind of hard to put a tangible, this learning intervention had this effect on a positive outcome. And that's why we're talking just now about sales. Sales is quite often a go-to place for learning because it's an easier one to measure.
And how has AI helped with measurement, or has it actually made it more difficult? I mean, Sophie, you just said that things are changing so quickly, so measurement must be a bit more difficult, right?
Yes, potentially. So we have been exploring measuring with AI, but equally we are trying to measure AI. So we have 2 experiments going on at the moment.
I love a good experiment.
It's always good to have a few experiments going. There's one's bubbling away, Ted's yellow. So there's a few basically concepts that we've been playing with. And we're all about start small and iterate. We're also all about beware shiny things, although we work in a very shiny things industry. So historically, we've done a lot of virtual reality and augmented reality, and we continue to do that. Increasingly, we're doing a lot of AI across multiple media. Even AI is an enabler. It's not a platform in its own right.
Yeah.
But we really preach about the importance of measuring these things, because if you just do it as a gimmick, then you might do one project, but it can really undermine people's confidence in a medium if you're doing it in a gimmicky way. And so we try and have intention with what we do. We've been looking at how emotional recognition AI and giving people feedback on a glimpse of how they might be coming across to another person.
Right. And is this like facial recognition?
Yeah, exactly. How big? So one of the things we've developed to access is your device's webcam and microphone. So we're using desktop PCs. This is not,
not technology that you need, like you don't need like what are those Vision Pros or anything like that.
Yeah, it's really accessible, scalable technology. We also really believe in the power of a good actor for emotional engagement.
Right.
You don't need to throw a baby out with the bathwater with AI and do everything new, I think.
Right.
But I thought emotional recognition technology is so interesting. Its ability to analyze your facial expressions and just give you that glimpse from a third person perspective that you never get on yourself. And And there's so much enthusiasm, there's so much interest, there's definitely something there.
Yeah.
But I think unless you measure that, how do you possibly know it? So that's what we've partnered with a researcher at the University of San Diego to run some experiments
Right.
to see what difference it's actually making compared to the traditional technology.
Wow, there's so much to unpack there. But Colin, did you have anything to add on?
I think what's been interesting for me is watching people's relationship with AI and kind of the notion of AI as a human counterpart. So we're just hearing in the talks this morning about initially people often find it quite eerie. And especially when we're giving people feedback around their facial expressions, that's something quite deeply personal. And it's also something that's quite hard to do. It's a very nuanced area. We pull lots of micro expressions. You can pull more than one expression at once. And we don't get it right as humans. Like we get it right about 90% of the time, and AI gets it right about 75 to 80% of the time. I'm sure it will carry on getting better. But from a data point of view, going back to what Sophie was talking about, it's important that we kind of aggregate that data. So we found in the kind of the user experience studies that we were doing that people took offense, like people personify AI, they see it as a person. And when that
Please,
person's,
thank you.
exactly that, yeah.
Don't order.
But when that person's kind of criticizing you, especially there's a perception that it's criticizing your appearance, that's something that people take quite personally. So we've taken care to provide kind of aggregated feedback. So in the example Sophie gave, when you finish telling your story, you get sort of an average of your levels of attentiveness and your dominant emotions and mood. And then some kind of well-positioned tips around how to potentially improve, and then the repeat practice is something that people can work upon. So rather than being kind of given a kind of diametric right or wrong, you did this badly or well, we position in the user experience design people to reflect and take the insights that they find are relevant to them and then keep practicing.
Yeah.
And after a while, because we work a lot in immersive entertainment as well as learning, we know about the importance of kind of the human host and getting people ready in the right mindset for a new experience. Sometimes when people are having a conversation with an AI avatar or chatbot, we do this all the time. So we forget that for some people it's their first time, and you have to kind of guide people to that place of feeling comfortable in the right mindset, and then be thinking about the feedback and the skill rather than thinking about the technology, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we find this a lot in VR as well as with AI. If people are thinking about the technology that they're using, then it means you haven't designed the content very well. It means that the content hasn't transcended the technology. So gone around a few points there, but from a measurement point of view, we found that one to be quite important. So in an early version of the user experience for the London Business School, there's kind of a word cloud that was projected on screen. And that was too prominent, it was too large, people could see it. And we had sort of feedback like, well, I can't help my own face. You're telling me I look concerned or distracted. So this is why we've sort of changed it to a more aggregated view over time, over kind of the length of the interaction.
Yeah, you're like softening the blow a little bit. I've had a couple of friends who not I don't know how they got this feedback, but they definitely got this feedback about how they listen to people and how their face rests when they listen to people.
Well, we talk about this later. So there's resting bitch face is a scientifically proven thing.
Yeah.
There was a study done in America in 2019, and for some individuals, your resting face shows double the amount of emotion as other people's, and sometimes that emotion is contempt. And so they did a study which used both kind of human observation and software observation of people's faces, and it was found, that kind of negative connotation came across, which again is why it's important that you give people feedback in context of their own improved performance, as opposed to just having feedback that says, like, you've got an angry face, because that's not fair.
Well, a stern face was what my friend got. And then I remember someone telling me, oh, I always know when you're thinking because you always look a little bit puzzled, a little bit confused. I'm like, well, that kind of, I'm thinking. So obviously I should be looking
My
a
wife
little bit
gives me
confused.
that all the time. She's on, I'm on a train. She said, Storch, I can tell when you're looking critically at someone. My brow goes. And she always thinks I'm going to get into a fight. Hasn't happened yet.
But that's great that AI can now, or at least you've built technology to recognize how someone's emoting. I think that's like a really interesting thing. And how did you land on building technology around this area in particular? Was it just because you were in the space of virtual reality and also in the kind of immersive entertainment space?
Yeah, so I think that convergence between technology and humans is just what is deeply fascinating. Why are we doing any of this if we're not helping people be better people and build better relationships at work? So that's what gets us in the morning. I think the piece of technology that we're working on at the moment actually started life during lockdown, and it was a mental health piece for Lloyds Banking Group. And it allowed people to practice having difficult conversations or powerful, courageous conversations. That's the word we're using now, and like it very much applies to the situation. So if you notice one of your colleagues is struggling during the lockdown, you're not there with them, but you just get some signs that things aren't going well for them. How do you have the courage to have that conversation? And they trained a lot of mental health advocates around the business at the time. The training was very popular, but then they surveyed people. They said, we don't feel ready. We do not feel ready to have that conversation. So they came to us with a challenge, which was, have we used digital to make people feel more ready to have a difficult conversation? So the app was called Here to Listen, and this is the thing that accesses your device's webcam or microphone, draws you into a fictional role play with a colleague in distress. And you can practice speaking aloud to him, and then what you said has been played back with some sort of generic coaching tips, because this was pre the effort of OpenAI. And it always felt like, would it be amazing if we could actually do something more personalized and more specific? Because this is such a sensitive topic.
Yeah.
But actually generic tips just didn't feel like it was doing it justice.
Right.
But you just have to not overreach or underreach the technology of where you are at that time. And that's where we were at the time.
Yeah.
And actually, that was the first piece of research that we commissioned, a separate academic, who looked at that ability and tool at the reflective learning model. So see yourself with through a critical eye, being coached in a safe space. And that was seen to be really effective. People were more than twice as likely to actually do something, to intervene, to have that courageous conversation if they'd done the app version versus traditional branching learning. So we felt like we had something powerful.
Yeah.
But there's AI came along and we're like, I think we can supercharge this. I think that fit that was missing, I think we might be able to find that really soon. So that's what we're playing with.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. And it's so great that it came from like such an impactful project. And I think I'm so curious about when someone gets that feedback. So let's say your tool tells me that you look confused when you're thinking, or when you're storytelling, you say certain things or emote a certain way. When someone receives that feedback, how long does it take them to then kind of adapt, their emotions and, how their face shows? Or is that something that you are looking into, or is that something that your tool does?
Yeah, I mean, the study that we've done recently on was kind of based over a 4-week program. So we were looking at people's response time, and we had a control group of who'd used the application that we've developed for conversational practice, and another group who went through a more traditional 4-week program. And the study showed that people felt more confident, or at least were more aware of the areas for their own improvement more quickly in the group who'd used the app. So just really, there's a piece there around self-awareness. And a lot of people have talked today about like feeling icky in real world role plays. Everyone hates them. Everyone hates sitting down and pretending to have
Especially when it's just a colleague and you're both, new to the job and you're feeling a little bit shaky already. If it's an actor, sometimes it does feel a little bit more immersive.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can talk more authoritatively than me at this, but we've also been studying filmed acted drama, which still has a greater emotional connection than avatars. Obviously, avatars have come on leaps and bounds in the last few years, but with AI generated avatars, there's still a little bit of a gap. And I've yet to see someone make an avatar look convincingly really angry. Like, I don't know if that's just because all the LLMs have been programmed like to be super helpful and say, what more could I do to help you with that? Yeah. I've never seen someone looking really cross. So especially for kind of sensitive subjects like mental health awareness, speaking to an acted avatar is still giving you a greater emotional response. And we can still, without it being the sort of crazy branched drama type scenario, still give people scenarios where they feel comfortable having that conversation. But we've also been kind of working with avatars as well, because obviously that gives you a greater degree of flexibility in terms of where you can take that conversation. But certainly, to answer your original question, people just, once they're over the kind of hump of I'm talking to a sort of simulated human and they get used to that kind of mechanic, people will go and do this repeatedly. And that's the idea. Like we're trying to make tools that people are drawn to use at the point of need, because they can practice a skill in a way that is very difficult to in the real world.
Yeah. But I think to come back to your question about how long does it take, I mean, I wish I had
Right.
And I think
How long does it take for me to get rid of my confused looking face?
this is turned into a different podcast.
Oh, God, yeah.
I think there is this temptation, the beware shiny things is going back, that like technology is going to be a magic bullet, and just take this 3 times, do this 3 times and you'll be fixed. But actually it's exactly the same as it is, we really advocate that as part of a blend. So human coaches are often held up as gold standards. That's maybe true in some cases and not true in others, but certainly it's a very effective method to have someone sat there coaching you every day. That might be quite quick. It might be quite expensive. There might be barriers to it. So this is very much seen as part of a blend, where it is this point of need practice tool. It's on 24/7, and 365 days a year. So that's really its affordance. How long it's going to take someone to improve? It's such a personal question, I think. It's
true, yeah.
It always has been. Adding technology to that doesn't really change it.
Yes.
Well, it also comes back to the original question about data and measurement. It's like, what is it that you're measuring? So in a sales conversation environment, you could take a control group, put them through conversation practice tool and say they were more effective at managing objectives and close more deals. But we've had to be careful in these experiences to design kind of well-structured experiences with a clear purpose. Because the outcome of the work we did with Lloyd's was clearly we wanted people to take an active role in advocating for people who are having mental health challenges. You're able to measure that to an extent, but with how quickly has this been effective in terms of storytelling? It's like, because there's the feedback the AI can give you, and in effect you can measure that. But then what you want is for that, as Sophie was saying, this becomes a practice tool to prepare you better for a real world intervention where either you're pitching yourself for your business or trying to convince something of an argument, and that's the real world outcome we're still trying to affect. And those things are the hardest things to measure, annoyingly. But
What I really love about this little process that we've been on for measuring, though, is it's really taken me back to the fundamentals of learning design. It's really like a coal face of learning design.
Right.
I think you said earlier about how do you soften the blow of feedback, and to challenge that, like, why does feedback need to be a blow? Like, feedback isn't a gift. We just need to get in the right headspace where it feels that way, and then we need to deliver that feedback sensitively and compassionately so that it is a gift. And the AI gives us data. How we choose to present that data so that people can hear it and learn from it, press, is very much within our gift of what we're doing as learning professionals. So the original version of the app that we're creating was very data out the box, like here's on the data. And it was too harsh, it's too critical, it wasn't mediated. So we've really been looking at the fundamentals of what good feedback looks like. And we started to group the emotions into zones. So instead of saying you look worried, you're in a reflective state.
Right.
You're not frustrated, you're in a reactive state. And using that kind of more neutral language and telling people that for this kind of conversation, you might want to stay in a connected state for much of it, but actually there's room for all these zones in the dynamic conversation. Don't worry if you're getting some of them. Just think about how you can move the dial on that one. What can you do? And just shifting that focus. It's really subtle nuances, tones of voice, how you deliver that. And it seems to be making a really massive difference.
Right. Do you find that with AI sometimes sometimes even with emerging technology, some of the experiences might seem a bit too harsh, and you almost as a designer have to wrap this warmer layer around it, just because. Exactly.
But I think there's you can go too far either way, because for feedback to be effective, sometimes it has to make us feel uncomfortable, and that's often when if you have the benefit of a regular human coach or a mentor, often they're going to challenge you on the behaviours that are not making you less effective or not helping you to proceed. So if you just sugarcoat everything to the point, it's like, oh, you did really well, talking to a child. And then people will not change their behaviours, and ultimately, at the end of the day, the work we do in learning is about changing behaviour.
Yeah.
So that's why striking the balance between not offending and not people having this kind of, well, this AI is telling me that I'm doing something wrong, and that's because then people just shut it down and not want to use it. Again, that point about people wanting to come back and use it. If it's giving people genuinely useful feedback, which is making them feel slightly challenged, and then they change their behaviour as a result.
Yeah.
And then they get the positive reinforcement of seeing that behaviour change and be more effective.
I've also had an opposite experience with AI where it's almost too positive. So sometimes it's not, I guess, like when you're just getting a score on how angry you look or not angry you look, that's a little bit harsh. But sometimes when I'm talking to ChatGPT or Claude or whatnot, you get into this kind of positive reinforcement.
ChatGPT is annoyingly positive. I don't know, it's just because I'm British. I want someone more cynical.
Or maybe I just say too many pleases and thank yous, and and I also type with a lot of exclamation marks, and so now I've started to realize that they're mirroring me. So, that's not always great either. Yeah. I guess in terms of a last question, you mentioned that your tool is a practice tool. So, of course, learning, you always want to drive engagement and drive awareness and traffic to different forms of learning. You might have e-learning modules or workshops that you want people to sign up to. How have you found, driving awareness and driving traffic to a tool that's AI, and how have you seen that adoption? Do people still like using the shiny thing after it loses its shine?
That's a great question. I think adoption is definitely a challenge, not least because I was talking to someone in the networking break earlier around, I think there's two elephants in the room today.
Right.
One of them is sustainability. I haven't seen the tool for sustainability, and there should be one. And the other one is about deployment, which obviously comes before adoption. We're working with people at London Business School, sort of healthcare education, that kind of thing, who have maybe a larger risk appetite for AI solutions, and we're able to scale with them. A lot of our bigger clients, a lot of our partners are in the finance sector, and there are some real barriers to getting these kind of solutions that use AI deeply past sort of procurement measures. And we're doing a piece of work at the moment to try and ease that process, but also that it's a bit more frictionless. They're not getting surprises when suddenly data teams are picking up the phone and saying, what is your piece of learning doing? Because we've never had a piece of learning do this before, and it's making a red light.
It's
flash.
hanging.
It is bad. So that's very much the first thing. And I think around that, there is a sort of, there are barriers to adoption that sort of tumble through from there. So we'll be working closely with our partners at London Business School to have a whole kind of marketing rollout plan to tell people your data's safe, this is safe, it's okay. But as soon as people do start to use it, we have seen people use it consistently.
Oh, that's good.
Then they will adopt. But the barriers to get there have been surprising, I think, even for us who kind of thought we were going into it with our eyes wide open.
Yeah, and especially you've worked with so much emerging tech, like the VR and all of the kind of XR type of technology. So it doesn't seem like it should be a new challenge, but I guess you're faced with new challenges all the time.
And then there's the technological barriers to adoption, which is generally kind of based around security and data privacy. But then there's also the human barriers to adoption. And what we don't want to do is kind of provide people hate e-learning, right? People hate taking e-learning courses. Let's say it. Everybody hates taking e-learning. But the genuinely useful behavior practice tool, I mean, the reason we use ChatGPT all the time is it saves us time and it makes us more effective at our jobs. It saves us time having to Google 5 different things and find the one paragraph in there that's relevant, and saves us to having to précis our writing. And so it's the same should be true of skills practice behavior tool. If we replicate the kind of old e-learning tropes of deliver some knowledge and test people at the end of it, people will just still try and bludgeon their way through these experiences and pass the assessment. Whereas if it's a useful guide coach that will help you to improve your performance, that's a present experience, not an awkward experience to go through, then people will return to them. And that's what we're starting to see, is that people are going back to it because it's useful to them and it's helping them to improve skills. People can tell in 5 minutes whether a piece of technology is being used as a gimmick to put a fun twist on the quiz. Those types of things have happened a lot in our industry. Then that's why we do so much research, is we want to make it genuinely useful to people.
Well, I think this has been such a fascinating conversation, especially we're talking a lot about technology that I think seemed like such a far reach. I feel like every day whenever I'm engaging with AI, it seems like there's always new changes, but emotional recognition and bringing that into learning, I think, is such a powerful tool to have. And I love also the idea of going back to your roots as well, about that feedback is a gift, and that you need to find the right balance to provide feedback that can, cut through, but then also that it needs to be delivered in a way that maybe isn't as blunt as some people would want. So this has been Generating an AI podcast in partnership with the LPI. We have been live at Learning Live AI Edition with lots of amazing guests such as Sophie and Colin from Make Real. And if you like this episode, please stay tuned. There are more guests to come. And you can catch us on all different streaming services. And don't forget to like and share and review.
Wherever you get your
Wherever you get your podcast.
Unless it's YouTube and they're not there.